The warship Infinite Sovereignty hung in the void like a monument to imperial power, its hull stretching nearly 3 kilometers from bow to stern. Admiral Zexthor of the Galactic Empire watched the tactical display with growing impatience, his 4 eyes narrowing at the single blue marker that represented the human vessel. It was barely a frigate by imperial standards. "Admiral," his second officer chittered nervously, mandibles clicking. "The human ship is hailing us again." "Ignore it," Zexthor commanded, his scaled hand waving dismissively. "We cross into Terran space in 10 cycles. Let them watch as the Empire claims what should have always been ours." For 3 centuries, the Galactic Empire had expanded unchecked across the Perseus Arm. Hundreds of species had either joined willingly or been absorbed through force. The humans were newcomers barely 2 generations since first contact. Their territory was small, their fleet modest, their technology seemingly unremarkable. But they had something the Empire wanted: the Kepler Junction, a natural wormhole nexus that would cut travel time across 3 sectors by half. "Admiral, the human is hailing again." "They're insistent," Zexthor's patience snapped. "Fine, put them through." The view screen shimmered, revealing the bridge of the human vessel. A young woman sat in the command chair, her dark hair tied back, wearing a simple gray uniform. She looked barely old enough to command a shuttle, let alone represent her species at such a critical moment. "I am Lisa Chen, captain of the TSF Resolute," she said calmly. "You are approaching Terran sovereign space. Terran command forbids the Galactic Empire from crossing the border." "Turn back now." Zexthor laughed, a sound like grinding stones. "Child, I have 500 warships behind me." "You have 1 frigate. The Kepler Junction will be Imperial property within the hour. This is your final warning," Lisa replied, her expression unchanged. "Cross the border and there will be consequences." "Your threats are amusing." Zexthor gestured to his weapons officer. "Prepare to..." The transmission cut off. Zexthor stared at the empty screen, then at his tactical officer. "Did she just hang up on me?" "Yes, Admiral, and..." "Sir, we're receiving a new transmission. It's on an open channel, broadcasting to the entire fleet. Put it through." This time, a different human appeared. A man with weathered features and cold gray eyes, wearing a uniform with more insignia than Lisa's. He sat in what was clearly a much larger command center, screens and personnel visible in the background. "I am Lewis Harding, Terran Command Defense Coordinator," he said without preamble. "Admiral Zexthor, you have been warned by Captain Chen. I am informing you now, our border is closed. You will not cross it." Zexthor's scales flushed with anger. "Human, you speak boldly for someone so outmatched. Where is your legendary fleet? All I see is 1 small ship." Lewis's expression didn't change. "You're looking at the only ship we need." "Then you are fools." "Perhaps." Lewis leaned forward slightly. "But we're also survivors." "Do you know what we survived, Admiral? Ourselves. We turned our own world into a weapon testing ground for centuries. We split atoms, engineered plagues, and built machines that could think. We nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times before we reached the stars. Ancient history means nothing here. It means everything," Lewis continued, "because it taught us something crucial. There is no weapon too terrible to build, no strategy too ruthless to employ, and no price too high to pay for survival. Your empire has never faced total extinction. We've stared into that abyss and climbed back out." Zexthor's tactical display suddenly lit up with warnings. "Sir," his sensor operator called out, "the human frigate is changing. It's deploying something." On the screen, the Resolute had begun to unfold. Sections of its hull peeled back like flower petals, revealing a structure within. A massive ring that began to glow with a blue-white light that hurt to look at directly. "What is that?" Zexthor demanded. Lewis smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "We call it a causality anchor. You see, Admiral, we discovered something interesting about your faster-than-light drives. They work by briefly phasing matter into subspace. Elegant technology. The ring's glow intensified. The anchor does something simple. It locks normal space in place. Nothing can phase. Nothing can jump. Nothing can leave." Zexthor felt his blood run cold. "You're bluffing." "Test me," Lewis said quietly. "Order one of your ships to jump away. Any ship. Pick one." The Admiral gestured frantically. His helmsman worked the controls, then looked up in horror. "Sir, the drives..." "They're not engaging. None of them. Across the entire fleet. You've trapped us, Zexthor breathed. Yes. Lewis's voice remained level. And now I'll explain what happens next. The anchor has a secondary function. With a specific command sequence that only Captain Chen can authorize, it inverts. Instead of preventing phase transitions, it forces them. Your entire fleet, all 500 ships, will be simultaneously scattered across subspace with no coordinates, no navigation, and no way to return. That's impossible. The power requirements alone would require a small star. Yes, Lewis interrupted. The anchor is currently drawing power from the Kepler junction itself. We've been preparing this for 6 months, ever since we learned of your intentions. Zexthor looked at his tactical display. 500 of the Empire's finest warships sitting helplessly in normal space, surrounded by an invisible cage. What do you want? He finally asked. I want you to understand something, Lewis said. Humanity doesn't have the biggest fleet. We don't have the most territory. But we have something you lack. We're willing to do whatever it takes. The anchor took 40% of our GDP to build. We mortgaged our future for this single weapon because we will not be conquered. He leaned back in his chair. So here's what happens now. You turn around, you go back to your empire, and you tell them that Terran space is closed forever. We will trade. We will talk. But we will never submit, and if we refuse, then Captain Chen pushes a button, and 500 warships simply cease to exist in any meaningful way. Their crews will drift forever in subspace, alive but lost for eternity. And then, Admiral, we build another anchor and position it somewhere else, maybe near one of your core worlds. The silence stretched for a long moment. You're monsters, Zexthor whispered. Lewis's expression finally changed. A hint of sadness crossed his features. No, Admiral. We're just human, and that's what makes us dangerous. The transmission ended. 20 cycles later, the Imperial fleet began its slow turn away from the border. On the bridge of the Resolute, Lisa Chen watched them go, her hand still hovering over the activation sequence she'd hoped never to use. Behind her, her communications officer spoke quietly. Captain Coordinator Harding is asking if you're all right. Lisa took a deep breath. Tell him I'm fine, and tell him it worked. They're leaving. As the last Imperial warship crossed back over their territory, Lisa Chen allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had just announced itself to the galaxy, not with conquest, but with a simple message. This far. No further, and the galaxy had listened.